I am 82 years old, and I buried my wife 3 winters ago. We were married for 52 years. I still say we. I don't know when that will stop. There's something I should have told her. I had half a century to say it. I thought I had more time. I don't tell this story because I enjoy reopening it. I tell it because I can feel the edges of my own time now. When you get to this age, you start counting in smaller numbers, seasons instead of years, holidays instead of decades. And when the house is quiet at night, you start remembering the things you meant to say. Her name was Margaret. Most people called her Maggie, but I always liked Margaret. It sounded steady, like her. We met when I was 23 and she was 21. It was 1967. I had just started my first real job at a manufacturing plant. Nothing glamorous, long hours, loud floors. I was proud of that job. It meant I could build something, a house, a family, a future. Margaret worked at the public library. She liked quiet places. I liked noise. That should have told me something. I fell in love with her because she listened. I could talk about anything, the job, my plans, the car I wanted to buy, and she would look at me like it all mattered. She had this way of tilting her head slightly when she cared about what you were saying. I mistook that look for permission to keep talking forever. We married young. It felt right. Everyone around us was doing the same. We bought a small house with yellow siding and a front porch that creaked. I told her, "This is just the beginning. I'm going to give you a bigger life than this." She smiled and said she liked the porch. I don't think I ever asked her what kind of life she wanted. In my 20s and 30s, I worked constantly. Overtime was available, and I took it. Promotions came slowly, but they came. Every step up meant longer hours, more responsibility. I told myself I was doing it for us. When our first child was born, I remember standing in the hospital room, holding my son, thinking, I have to work harder now. That was my first instinct. Not to sit, not to stay, to work. Margaret stayed home with the kids. That was the arrangement back then. She never complained, at least not loudly. She would tell me about their days when I came home. Sometimes I was too tired to listen properly. I would nod, kiss her forehead, say, "That's great, honey." Then I'd turn on the television or fall asleep in my chair. I told myself she understood. Years passed like that. Not in dramatic fights or big betrayals, just in small, ordinary evenings. I missed a few school plays. I made it to most of the big things. I told myself that counted. Once, when our daughter was about 10, she had a recital. I had a meeting that ran late. I arrived just as it was ending. Margaret was standing in the back of the auditorium. She looked at me and smiled, but her eyes were tired. "She did beautifully," she said. I told my daughter I was proud of her. She said, "It's okay, Dad. Mom recorded it." It's strange what sticks with you. I don't remember the meeting. I remember that sentence. In my 40s, the job became everything. I was respected. People relied on me. When I walked into a room, things moved. At home, things also moved, just without me. Margaret handled the bills, the appointments, the school forms. She knew which child was struggling in math. She knew which teacher to call. She knew when the dog needed shots. I knew the quarterly numbers. I don't say that with pride anymore. She would sometimes sit across from me at dinner and ask, "Are you happy?" I'd laugh a little. "Of course I am. Look at what we've built." She would nod, but she wasn't asking about the house. There were moments when I sensed something slipping, not breaking, just thinning. We stopped staying up late talking. We stopped taking long drives on Sundays. I would say, "Maybe next weekend." There was always another weekend. I thought love was proven through stability, through paying the mortgage on time, through fixing the leaky sink. I didn't understand that she needed words. Margaret wasn't dramatic. She didn't shout. She didn't threaten to leave. She just grew quieter. In our 50s, the kids moved out. The house felt larger, quieter. That's when I first noticed the space between us. We would sit in the living room, each reading something different. The silence wasn't hostile. It just wasn't warm. One evening she said, "Do you ever miss us? The way we used to be?" I said, "We're still us." She looked down at her hands. "I know. I just mean, before everything got so busy." I told her things would slow down once I retired. That was my answer to everything. Later, when things settle, when the timing is right. She started volunteering more at church, joined a book club, took a short trip with a friend. I was glad she had things to do. I didn't see that she was building a life that didn't depend on me being present. When I finally retired at 67, I came home with a plaque and a handshake. I remember walking through the front door at 3 in the afternoon and thinking, now it begins. Now we'll have time. Margaret was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables. "You're early," she said gently. "I'm done," I told her. "All yours now." She smiled, but it was different from the one in the library all those years ago. Retirement was harder than I expected. I felt useless at first. I didn't know how to fill my days. Margaret had her routines, her friends, her volunteer work. I realized I didn't know her schedule. We started taking walks in the evening. That part was good. We would circle the neighborhood and talk about small things, the weather, the neighbors, the grandkids. One night I stopped walking and said, "Did I do right by you?" She looked surprised. "Of course you did." "That's not what I mean," I said. "Was I enough?" She was quiet for a long moment. "You gave us a good life," she said. It wasn't the answer I was hoping for, but I didn't press. I didn't want to hear something that might hurt. Looking back, that was the moment I should have listened harder. The illness came quietly, a cough that didn't go away, fatigue, tests. I remember sitting in the doctor's office, holding her hand, when we heard the word cancer. Stage 4. It didn't feel real. Margaret squeezed my fingers and asked calm questions. I just stared. The months that followed were the closest we had been in years. I drove her to appointments. I sat beside her during treatments. I learned the names of medications. We talked more. One afternoon, while she rested on the couch, she said, "You know, I always loved you." I laughed softly. "Always? Even when I was working all the time?" "Especially then," she said. "I knew you were trying." Trying. That word undid me. I said, "I should have been home more." She shook her head. "We made the choices we knew how to make." That was Margaret, gentle to the end. A week before she died, we were alone in the hospital room. The machines hummed quietly. I held her hand and finally said it. "I'm sorry." "For what?" she whispered. "For not telling you enough. For not saying how much you mattered. For thinking there would always be time." She looked at me in that same way she used to, head slightly tilted. "I knew," she said. But knowing isn't the same as hearing. She passed early in the morning. The room was gray with dawn. I felt her hand go still. After 52 years, the silence was different. The house changed immediately. It wasn't just quiet. It felt unfinished. Her slippers were still by the bed. Her coat still hung by the door. I couldn't move them for months. People came by at first. Meals, cards, calls. Then life resumed for everyone else. I learned how much of my world had been held together by her invisible work. The birthday she remembered, the neighbors she checked on, the way she kept us connected to our children. Without her, I was a man in a well-built house that didn't know how to feel like a home. I think about the things I should have told her. I should have told her that her steadiness saved me from myself. I should have told her that when she asked if I was happy, I should have asked her the same question and waited for the real answer. I should have told her that the porch on that first house was enough. Mostly, I should have told her that her presence, not my promotions, was the foundation of our life. You can't go back and say things to a gravestone. I visit her every Sunday. I sit on the small bench and talk anyway. I tell her about the grandchildren, about the tomatoes I tried to grow. But there's no tilt of the head anymore. If you're listening to me and you still have someone beside you, I won't tell you what to do. I don't have that right. I'll just say this. Don't assume they know. Don't assume your effort speaks clearly on its own. Words feel awkward sometimes. They feel unnecessary when the bills are paid and the lights are on. But there will come a morning when the house is gray with dawn, and you'll realize you would trade every achievement for one more ordinary evening on that creaking porch. I have had a good life. I won't pretend I haven't. We raised children who turned out kind. We built something steady. But success doesn't sit next to you at night. A title doesn't hold your hand in a hospital room. A person does. I'm 82 now. I move slower. I forget names sometimes. I talk to her picture more than I care to admit. I don't need applause. I don't need comfort. I just needed to say this out loud before I run out of mornings. If this meant something to you, you can sit with it for a while. That's enough. As for me, I'll keep walking our old route in the evenings. I still pause at the corner where she used to stop and look at the sky. I'm finally learning how to be present. I just wish I had learned it when she could still hear me.